Beginning in the late 19th century, particularly around the 1880s, and extending into the early 20th century, did the various European powers initiate the rapid colonization of the continent of Africa. And this period of European expansion into the Dark Continent is known as a Scramble for Africa. The key event which would foment European claims to African territories was the Berlin Conference. Held in Berlin, Germany from November 15, 1884 to February 26, 1885, the conference included representatives from several European nations who met in order to plan and regulate the official colonization of Africa. However, there was one European leader that did not attend the Berlin Conference, who at the same time had already laid claim to a specific region of Africa even before the conference in Berlin began. And this European ruler, who initiated his interest in Africa, primarily the territories of the Congo, was King Leopold II of Belgium. Though absent from the conference, it was understood throughout Europe how Leopold was seeking international recognition for his claims in the Congo. Thus, by the end of the Berlin Conference in 1885, did the European powers ultimately formalize Leopold's control over the Congo Free State. And as we shall see, Leopold's interest in the Congo was driven by greed, which fueled a brutal regime that led to slavery, severe ill treatment, and ultimately the deaths of millions of the native Congolese people. The atrocities committed by the Belgian government against the people of the Congo during this period can confidently be described as one of the first genocides in modern history. Unfortunately, this human tragedy has not been widely taught in public schools here in America and seems to have gone off the radar from the rest of the world. The purpose here is to tell the story of a somewhat neglected event in history, which deserves to be acknowledged when the subject of human suffering is brought up. Whether it be the killing of 6 million Jews in World War II, or the genocide of 1.5 million Christian Armenians in World War I, the history of the African Holocaust is also worthy of the world's attention. Initially, the greatest economic commodity the Congo had to offer the Belgians was ivory, due to the healthy amount of African elephants which populated the Congo. But then came the discovery of rubber in the 1890s, which would soon become Leopold's African gold mine. In the rainforests of the Congo, wild rubber vines covered nearly half of the territories confiscated by Leopold. To compete with other nations who took control of the rubber trees in Latin America, Leopold pushed for even greater amounts of rubber to be collected by the Congolese population. Now it is beyond belief how a foreign nation can invade a country and not only rob the natural resources of that colonized country, but enslave the very people belonging to that country who, in fact, have more rights and legitimate claims to the resources of their native land. The Belgians even had such a merciless and inhumane policy towards any Congolese slave who rebelled against rubber collection: systematic murder. And if that wasn't cruel enough, the Belgian overlords, requesting for all bullets to be accounted for, demanded their soldiers to sever the right hands of the murdered Africans as proof that their ammunition wasn't wasted on hunting wild animals. But just when you think that this horror story couldn't descend any further into degeneracy, it does. For today in Belgium, confectionery shops in Antwerp, Belgium's most populated city, can one find chocolate hands for sale as a national delicacy. This cannot be just a coincidence, and further demonstrates the barbarity of the Belgian government and speaks to the utter racism and insensitivity maintained by the populace. The heinous acts inflicted upon the people of Congo were first brought to light by Protestant Christian missionaries from Britain who traveled to the Congo in the hopes of gaining converts to Christianity. For the British also had a stake in Africa and aimed to bring Africans the 3 C's, namely commerce, civilization, and Christianity. You could say this was a type of evangelical imperialism. Now, in an attempt to prevent the scandalous news of what the Belgians were doing in the Congo from reaching Europe, Leopold's press bureau paid off several European newspaper editors. However, at least one editor rejected these bribes and went on to lead an investigation into the bureau's underhanded meddling within the European press and media. When news of the Belgian atrocities committed in the Congo reached the shores of America, it inspired many influential American citizens to pressure the United States government to act on behalf of the Congolese people in order to halt the crimes against humanity of which King Leopold was unmistakably guilty of. However, Leopold responded to this American movement against him by forging ties with powerful people within the United States government himself. To further cover his shame, Leopold even went as far as convincing the Vatican that he, a Catholic king, was being undermined and slandered by Protestant missionaries. But all of Leopold's wicked machinations would eventually catch up with him. For in December of 1906, the American newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst publicly exposed all of Leopold's corrupt dealings with politicians in Washington. Hearst also went on to release information regarding the genocidal crimes inflicted upon the people of the Congo by the Belgian government. It was revealed that the Congolese causes of death were a combined case of killing, starvation, overwork, and disease. In 1919, the Belgian government officially reported that from 1885 to 1909, the population of the Congo had been reduced to a half. That would mean that close to 10 million people died. These unthinkable acts, perpetrated by King Leopold's regime, have left a lingering impact upon the people of the Congo, which is still felt even to this very day. This collateral damage has led to an ever-growing desire to tell the world about one of the most brutal colonial regimes in the history of Africa and one of the most devastating genocides in the history of the world. One of the first literary works to tell the tale of the horror which took place in the Belgian Congo was the novel Heart of Darkness, written by Joseph Conrad, which was originally published in 1902. The movie Apocalypse Now, released in 1979, was also based on Heart of Darkness. Though set in war-torn Vietnam, the film successfully symbolizes the descent into madness which can occur as a consequence of the corrupting influence of power and greed. King Leopold died in December of 1909 after a failed surgical procedure to remove what was reported as an intestinal blockage, which in reality may have been colon cancer. Although Leopold's passing may have been casually ignored by the people of Belgium, the people of the Congo, on the other hand, would not and could not erase this evil man's legacy from their collective memory. What the Belgians did, well over 100 years now, is still discussed today within modern political circles and among the people. Over the years, this national dilemma has evolved into an expanding movement, bringing international awareness to this dark era in Congo's history. In recent years, Belgium has been forced to reassess and face the facts concerning their colonial legacy. In 2020, following protests against colonialism and racism, the Belgian government acknowledged the need to hold dialogues dealing with the impact of Belgium's colonial rule on the Congolese people, as well as the need for justice and even monetary reparations. However, efforts to rewrite Belgium's history have been a complex and ongoing struggle among historians, politicians, and even the public. This is the Leap of Faith.